Good to go.
Good to go. Meeting will now come to order. Welcome to the September 9th, 2024 meeting of the City of Asheville Noise Advisory Board. My name is Reb Hazlip, and I am the chairperson of the NAB. All committee members and staff are participating virtually today. We are streaming live on our Virtual Engagement Hub, which is accessible through the Virtual Engagement Hub link on the front page of the city website, and also linked on the Noise Advisory Board page. For those of you out there with us today, welcome. I will now introduce all the board members who are participating virtually. Please make sure to mute your microphone if you're not speaking. When you have a question or would like to speak, unmute your microphone. Rick. Board members, as I call your name, please acknowledge your presence. Jessica Thomason.
Present.
Rick Freeman.
Present.
Jeff Santiago. David Ledger. Jay Sanders.
Present.
Bruce Eichelheimer.
Present.
Councilwoman Antoinette Mosley. And also with us today are a couple of staff members, Chris O'Brien, Compliance Officer, City of Asheville, Ashley Stanley with Asheville Enforcement Office. Correct me if I'm wrong there, Ashley. So on the screen, you can see the agenda, and the first order of business is approval of the August minutes. Can I have a motion to approve, or is there any discussion of the August minutes?
I motion to approve.
I second.
Second. Okay. Jessica?
Oh, I motion to approve.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Bruce?
He seconded.
I just second that motion
All
to
right.
approve.
Wasn't paying attention. Rick?
Aye.
Jay?
Aye.
Me, aye. Very good. The minutes approved. Next up in the agenda is the noise administrator check-in. Chris, there were a few things that we discussed at our agenda setting meeting. If you would like to take it away.
Yeah, so I'm going to comment on the staff report. Currently, a couple things to kind of eye and take notice of. We've had an increase in APD daily reports in the number of complaints, and the Asheville app complaints are up. Some of those our noise compliance team has worked on. Asheville app complaints generally have been residential neighbor. If you're able to scroll down, you'll see under there's been 3 in June, 15 in July, and 21 in August that have all stemmed from the same address. In multifamily, we've been able to work with the apartment management team to address those complaints. They've all been anonymous, and we've been unable to follow up on them. But the property management team at that apartment complex is taking care of it. So we should see that decline again. The other residential neighbor complaint that we had was construction. This is an ongoing issue at an address that we are working with the property owner and their tenants to correct. The APD increase, what we've been seeing a lot of is vehicle noise. And we've been seeing a lot of that coming in from multifamily residential vehicles and parking lots. So we're trying to work with APD and the property management companies to address that. Other than that, a couple trash recycling collection, which we generally see around holidays. They use the remaining portion of the week, try and catch up, and sometimes pop into a violation there. So we did issue 2 warnings for that. Besides that, I think that's all I got for you. Any other?
I have a question, Chris.
Yeah.
You know where each of these reports come from. For example, with vehicular noise, you can correlate that to where the location is or who the individual is.
Sometimes, yes. In the daily log, we do look at the address of where the complaint is coming in from, and if that address does correlate to a public street in downtown CBD, or if that goes back to like a vehicle in a parking lot, like a multifamily or something like that. We are able to somewhat track that information.
The reason I ask that is that there have been several emails in the last month or 6 weeks with people who, both downtown and in other neighborhoods, who are complaining about noise. And what I've told them to do, I say the best thing you can possibly do is to complain. And I'm just curious if you can begin to isolate pockets of complaints that may be related to those emails. That was my comment. Rick?
Yeah, so I was going to ask about that. So the vacant Sears building parking lot is a recurring opportunity for both engine revving and squealing tires, but my neighborhood has kind of given up, I think. I don't think, correct me if I'm wrong, Chris, I don't think you're probably getting any complaints at all on that, because we basically know from early conversation that APD can't enforce. But I would try to reinvigorate my neighborhood to go to the to the Asheville app and just post it if that was what you guys wanted. I mean, I could do it probably every other day, just when I'm walking the dog at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. It's like yesterday, somebody started all the way near Cookout, and about every 10 seconds revved as they moved throughout the parking lot all the way to the south end. It's just like, vroom, vroom, vroom.
Yeah.
But we're immune a bit. People have kind of given up that there's anything they can do.
So while they could submit those through the Asheville app, since it is a moving violation, it would need to go to APD first, and then when we get our APD daily log, that's how we would track it through there. So the non-emergency line is the best bet for something in that type of scenario.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, this actually segues into a part of the conversation today having to do with one of our 2024 priorities on vehicle noise, and that is social media and a public campaign around vehicular noise. Because I mean, I'm concluding that really the best thing we can do is to encourage as many people as possible to complain, wherever that is, APD, Asheville app, wherever, calling your council person, wherever that is, because the data is going to drive what we're able to advise the council. I constantly have to inform people we have zero enforcement authority. We're simply an advisory board, but to complain and complain and complain. And I'm just wondering, Chris, if you've had an opportunity to speak with Mark or anybody in Cape about getting the meeting together for a social media campaign.
Yeah, Mark and I discussed this last week. We're trying to get some dates on the schedule, but we haven't been able to kind of really get anything set in stone yet. Once we're able to get a few days where everybody's schedule kind of lines up, we'll get those out to you and Jessica and kind of sit down and look and see what that social media campaign would look like. Okay,
that's good. Okay. The other thing that we talked about, Chris, that you might inform the board of is an impending meeting with the construction community regarding a possible limitation of hours on Saturday.
Yeah, so currently we have an upcoming meeting with legal to address some of the wording in the noise ordinance to better address some of the complaints that have come in. They kind of don't fall under any portion of it. So that's coming up. And during that, we're going to talk about the construction aspect and seeing what it would take to modify those construction hours. Once we kind of get the advice from legal, then we'll be setting up meetings with different construction organizations to get their input, as well as with the noise advisory board representatives.
Okay. And then one final question is whether you had a chance to do any research on noise cameras.
I've been trying to dig in and see what I can find. But I have the general statutes are long and lengthy, and I haven't been able to get any details on it yet.
Okay. All right. Anybody got other questions for Chris?
I just wanted to input. I do know that like long-term outdoor noise monitoring equipment is exceedingly expensive. Tends to be like kind of shockingly pricey because it's a specialty equipment and not common. So
Yeah,
definitely not going to make up the money issuing fines. Just
they're definitely cost prohibitive.
yeah, putting that out there.
Yeah.
$13,500 per camera, excluding monitoring.
Right. I think that's a cheap purchase price, but then the annual upkeep on those things is not insignificant. And the regular, like it has to flow into onto something that's going to store the data and be accessible. So yeah, pricey.
Okay. All right. Any other questions for noise administration? In which case we'll go to old business. Really, what you see in old business is a link to the presentation, the Excel matrix that Chris and Mark Matheny put together on the back of Jessica's presentation to Environment and Public Safety 3 months ago or so, which will, I think, continue to dictate our agenda until something more pressing comes in. But having to do, the items from the council presentation, one thing that we want to do is the public survey. And Jessica, you had mentioned previously that you might be willing to chair that. I suppose that depends on your disposition with respect to remaining a advisory board member, but it is something. Chris has linked us into the previous series of questions that were posed around the community back in 2021 or 2021 when we rewrote when the ordinance was rewritten. So we've got a backdrop of questions to look at, but Deborah Campbell and Mark Matheny and Chris are looking to us to develop the backbone of that survey. What do we want to ask? What do we want to know? What information are we looking for? What data do we want to affirm? So that will remain to be an agenda item in old business for some time. Yes, Jessica.
I was just going to say, I'm still happy to spearhead that, and an action item for today's meeting would be, does anybody want to help me as a working group to put that together? Because they would like, from the conversation we had with Deborah, they would like to be able to put that out by November, which means doing the work now to come up with a list of questions, and then next meeting in October, present those questions to the board to vote on, and then send those along to city staff as well, and to just approve so that that can go out in November. So
I'm happy to help.
thanks, Bruce.
Thank you, Bruce. Oh, all right.
Jay, you want to help too? Okay, cool. Great.
That's fantastic. Thank you both.
Yeah. So I'll email you both after this, and I'll send you the link to the previous survey that was done. And then I'll put some times that I'm available to meet via Zoom, and we can figure out.
I know one thing that's going to come up is the question about low frequency noise and
Yes.
how that gets addressed.
Yeah.
I was thinking about that today, and I actually originally nobody shoot me. I originally suggested that using a low frequency metric like a C weight is not necessarily a good idea. And I still kind of stand behind that, because the C weight will pick up things like highway noise that's far away that doesn't really that you can't really hear, but it still hits the metric. But that's something that we can definitely add to the survey and get other people's input on that.
Okay. Yeah, for sure. And Bruce, I can tell you that we've had a lot of conversations about that the last few years, because it's such a challenging thing, because it is something that should be taken into consideration. But what you're saying is exactly why a lot of cities don't use it.
Yeah.
Is because it picks up other things that are
too
not
muddy.
necessarily
Yeah,
from the noise source,
Low
right?
frequency travels really far, and
Yeah.
it's hard to point a finger with low frequency. So
Yeah, but I feel like there should probably be some semblance of a question that's on
yes,
this survey to the general public about that.
agreed.
So yeah,
Happy to help.
okay, great. I'll email you all after the meeting, and I'll send that link, and then sometimes that I'm available this week and next week.
Jessica, the one thing I might suggest, although I don't know how to do it, is to start some sort of a database from the specific individuals who have complained about or talked about DBC, so that we make sure that constituency is represented in the survey. You never really know who's going to take the survey and how you get it out there. But if we can get our public or our social media campaign going, maybe that would help.
Yeah, and I think, again, I mean, one of the things that we do have going for us with doing the survey, and one of the reasons why we wanted to do it, is because it's one of the cities, it's an example of some of the highest civic engagement that the city has had on a survey in the past. So obviously this noise is something that is something that people are very concerned with, right? So hopefully looking at some of the same channels that the city used the first time to push it out, but then also social media or whatever. And I don't know, Chris, if there's some way to send a survey out to people who, I don't know if there's a database of people who have complained in the past where we could send it to them as well, just to be like, hey, this is, something that we're trying to get feedback on in a greater capacity. But, we can look into that.
Yeah, I don't know if we can use the log for that, but that might be something we can look into and figure out.
Yeah. Yeah, that's right. I forgot about that too, because there's a thing with that in terms of soliciting those folks for information. Yeah, I remember that. Okay. Yeah, well, we'll figure it out. We'll see how many ways we can get it, have the most impact in terms of how many people we can reach.
Okay. Anything else on the survey? Second item under the matrix is the construction hours. We spoke about that briefly with Chris, and really nothing can move on that until the city has an opportunity to put together a meeting with some of the contractors in the city. But ironically, I did note, Rick, we never saw this. Buncombe County has a 6 p.m. construction noise shutoff time, which is odd to me. Yeah, we missed that completely. But our neighbor, our county has a shorter construction time frame than we do. Anyway, interesting tidbit. Power washing and mechanical noises. I think, Chris, you addressed that in your conversations that are coming up. Vehicular noise. We talked a little bit about that. Board member, does anybody want to say anything more about vehicular more? Jay, one of the things on our agenda today is new businesses enforcement limitations, because I thought you wrote a really good email. I'd like to talk a little bit about that related to vehicular noise. But is anybody got anything more on vehicular noise right now? Okay. Oh, hand up, Rick.
Has there ever been any discussion, not about a citation, but some kind of warning or anything, where if the public provided some form of evidence? I'll just give you an example in my own personal life. Leaving my neighborhood the other day, the stoplight on Tunnel Road favors Tunnel Road, so you sit there for a fairly long period of time. And I pulled up behind a pickup truck with two big pipes coming out the back. And literally, I thought an airplane had crashed like right behind me. I mean, I couldn't believe what I heard, but I'm staring at the make and model and license plate. And I wonder, short of a citation where it has to be observed by an enforcement official, I wonder if there's any path for community engagement that would lead to something useful in our campaign. I don't remember we're talking about that before, but I suspect the downtown business owners who see the same people making the circle all the time could step out, take a picture, fill out a form, date and time. This is what it was. It was so loud. I mean, my teeth rattle. I just wonder if that would help us in any way. And I don't know where to take it from there, but it was just a thought to give the public some hope, right? Some way to not be passive because nothing's going to get done. Just a thought.
Bruce.
Yeah, that's a good idea. The only problem with that, Rick, is I think that, it's not inexpensive to make your truck make that kind of noise. That costs money, and it's intentional. It's on purpose. So if somebody gets a letter saying, you were loud, I think they're just gonna say thank you for the letter, and just don't think it's gonna have any impact. I think if there's not actual teeth with something like that, the people who are making these noises are doing it on purpose, and they know they're noisy. And it's not like, I don't think you're gonna like suddenly stir someone's civic duty by sending them by notifying them that they are being ridiculously loud. It's just unfortunate. I think this vehicular noise thing is just such an intractable issue. That's just my 2 cents.
It's a tough one, that's for sure. And Jay, we'll circle back to that in just a minute. Okay. Anything else on vehicles? All right. Board member composition, we got the thumbs up from council to appoint someone from multifamily housing to our board to fill one of the at-large positions. Without Jeff here today, I think Jessica and I thought that since this was an issue that
He's
Jeff...
here.
Oh, he is? Oh, he is
Yeah,
here.
he's
Oh,
there.
he jumped into the meeting. Hey, Jeff.
Hey, sorry about that. I'm late, but I've been here for a bit.
Okay, good. I don't know if you just heard me, but we've got the thumbs up for multifamily member at one of the at-large positions, and we thought that might be something you want to wrangle.
Yeah, that's great. I actually reached out and was suggested that I reach out to the housing authority to get some ideas from that front. I'm also trying to find out some other places or resources to contact, people at larger multifamily units elsewhere as well. So I'm trying to tackle that in 2 directions if I can.
Okay. Yes, Chris?
Jeff, there's a organization in Western North Carolina that kind of works with property managers. I can't remember the name off the top of my head, but I will get that information and send you an email with you. They work with all the larger multifamily apartment complexes in the community. If you're unable to get with somebody from HACA, that might be a route you can look into.
That's great. I definitely appreciate that info. This will, I think I need to kind of reach out on both fronts so we can kind of get something happening and going and get some possible candidates.
That sounds good. Anything else on board members? Anybody have any old business comments before we move on to new business? All right, new business. Jay, I guess about a month ago or so, or shortly after our last meeting, you did a little digging and found an article in the New York Times. I think it dated back to 2006, back when on Patton Avenue that had become something of a cultural drag strip. And at the time, it got heavy police saturation. I mean, they busted it up. And I think in your note, you noted that, in your opinion, the only thing that's going to change the equation is enforcement, and that public media and other means that may be at our disposal might not be of great value. But the problem for us as an advisory board is that we have no enforcement authority. And to be perfectly honest, APD has largely rinsed their hands of us. I mean, we put a pretty hard push on APD to help us in the downtown area. They've got a county city saturation effort that I believe is still going on the weekends. Jessica and I penned a note to Lieutenant Mike McClanahan, who sent it up. Rick, you'll find this humorous, sent it up to one of our assistant city attorneys, where it met a pretty immediate death. So we've really heard no more out of APD, and it just doesn't look like they have an appetite, given the lack of resources in the department and the other issues that are more pressing. But there's just not an appetite with APD to deal with vehicular noise and drag racing and loud cars and, revving and all that other stuff. The one area where something might help is if there was some cruising enforcement, if in some other ordinance there were prohibitions against cruising, because most of the noisemakers, intentional noisemakers, as Bruce says, they do it on purpose, and they just make loops around the downtown. But it's as Bruce said, it's almost intractable, which is why I keep saying maybe public media, maybe if we get enough people complaining, we can take the data to city council and say, I mean, here's the data. I mean, they say that they base their decisions on data. And I can't think of anything better than just pressing the data point. But I did want to address your note and just say what our limitations really are. Yeah, Bruce. You're muted.
How long have I been doing Zoom meetings now? This might be a crazy idea, but would the city ever deputize people, like with a sound level meter, like a data collection thing? Like, we wouldn't issue the ordinance, but if you somehow someone was, confirmed to be providing valuable data, and you get a sound level meter and a shot of a license plate, and actually do, instead of sending a warning, which is a nice idea, but send an actual like fine or something. Because I don't think APD is going to stop people. I mean, they're understaffed and underfunded, and it's,
yeah.
But if you had some volunteers out there with a sound level meter and a camera, you might lay down some fines and start to stop people. That's a spitball idea right there.
I don't know, Chris, what do you think?
It comes back to a moving violation. Moving vehicles are going to be handled by APD specifically. I know that we do not have the staff available in our office with our noise compliance to be able to put somebody out on the street and hope somebody comes by. I don't know if APD would be willing at all to entertain an idea of civilians out there, just because of the risks that are involved with it.
Cool. That makes sense. Rick?
So I don't know if they've actually implemented it or if it was just a theory that was going around. There was a movement toward civilians handling non-injury traffic accidents. Now, they're not moving because they're a traffic accident, but there was some stuff in the press a while back that either the state or the county or the town was considering that, because a fender bender takes a phenomenal number of hours to get both people out of their car and, listen to all that sort of stuff. So perhaps if we could find out if that's still going to go forward, would there be a way to use that and find out how well that helped out with the understaffing problem? And at least downtown, if a vehicle is stopped at a red light and is revving their engine, is it still moving? I don't know. The attorneys probably would shoot it down, but Reb, as you're aware, we had the attorneys shoot down some stuff a couple of times, and we went back and pinned them in a corner and said why and how. And, if you're willing to ask enough questions, sometimes they'll change their minds. So that's the only idea I've got to offer forward.
How would we find out if that citizen group is going to happen? You don't know out of which department or anything? No.
No, I mean, I think it was in the Citizen Times, so perhaps just a newspaper search would find a reference to that sort of thing. And we can also just, if you haven't figured out anything by Thursday, since I will be in a continuum of care board meeting, only a couple seats down from the captain of the APD, I can ask him.
Yeah, please do.
Okay. Got it.
That'd be great. Okay. Any other new business, Jay? I wanted to address your email. Any other new business? We have had a couple of email complaints. One about, I had one from vehicular noise. There's another about sly grog having to do with DBC. Any comment on the emails or thoughts on what recourse there may be?
I'll do some research on municipalities that use DBC and just find out what the best practices out there. It's just like I was saying before, from an enforcement standpoint, DBC does have issues. I was originally against the idea, but I'll see I'll try to do some research and find out what municipalities do right now.
Okay, that'd be great. Chris.
And we'll continue to monitor the complaints as they come in and take DBA readings as necessary.
Okay. All right. Check my agenda. That concludes the official agenda. Haley, checking in with you to see if we have anybody for public comment.
I do see one person in the queue.
Ashley, sorry about that.
That's okay. There's one person in the queue. Callers on the line, press star 3 to enter the speaker queue, and you'll be given 3 minutes to speak. And we do have one caller ending in 1546. I'm going to give you your 3 minutes now if you have anything. Okay, I'm not hearing anything, so I guess we do not have public comment.
Okay. Then I think that concludes the meeting for today. If there are no objections, we will adjourn the meeting. Any objections? Is there a motion?
I motion to adjourn.
Second?
I second.
I'll take a show of hands. Unanimous. Can't vote twice, Rick. You know that. All right. Thank you, everybody. We'll see you October the 1st. Maybe not you, Jessica.